The stars had seen many things in their long lives. They had watched civilizations rise and fall. They had seen empires grow strong and then turn to dust. But the stars had never seen anything like the Titanic ships. These massive vessels moved through space like metal mountains. Each ship stretched over 200 kilometers from end to end. Their hulls were black as the void itself, and their engines burned with a cold blue fire that could be seen from millions of miles away. The Valorian Dominion had built these ships to conquer, and conquer they did. For 3,000 years, the Dominion had spread across the galaxy. They moved from system to system, world to world. Every species they met was given the same choice: submit or die. Most chose to submit. Those who chose to fight learned very quickly that fighting was useless. The shields on the Titanic ships could stop any weapon. Their cannons could crack planets in half. Their armies numbered in the billions. Supreme Commander Kethvorin stood on the bridge of the largest ship ever built. The vessel was called the Eternal Supremacy, and it was his pride and joy. From here, he had commanded the conquest of 17 star systems. He had watched worlds burn. He had heard the screams of countless species begging for mercy. Today, his sensors had found a new target. "Report," he said. His voice was deep and cold. He did not need to raise it. Everyone listened when he spoke. A young officer stepped forward. His name was Tethral, and he was eager to prove himself. "Supreme Commander, we have detected a small yellow star, approximately 3 light years ahead. Initial scans show 8 planets. The 3rd planet shows signs of advanced life." Kethvorin looked at the holographic display. The little blue world spun slowly in the projection. It had large oceans and green land masses. White clouds swirled across its surface. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. "What do we know about them?" he asked. Tethral checked his data. "They call themselves humans, Supreme Commander. They have existed as a species for approximately 300,000 years, but they only developed space travel about 200 years ago. They have colonized their moon and established small bases on the 4th planet in their system. Weapons? Primitive, Supreme Commander. Nuclear devices. Chemical rockets. Some basic energy weapons. Nothing that could threaten our shields." Kethvorin smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Another easy victory. Set course for their world. We will add them to the Dominion. The fleet changed direction. 1,000 Titanic ships moved as one, their engines lighting up the darkness of space. They were the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. No one had ever stopped them. No one ever would. Or so they believed. 3 days later, the fleet entered the outer edges of the human star system. They passed a small, frozen world at the edge and continued inward. Kethvorin watched with mild interest as they moved past gas giants and asteroid fields. The humans had left some probes and satellites in these areas, but nothing of importance. Then the message came. It arrived on all frequencies at once. Every ship in the fleet received it at the same moment. The voice that spoke was calm and steady. It belonged to a human female, and she spoke in perfect Valorian. "This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the United Earth Defense Force. You are entering sovereign human space. Your fleet has been identified as hostile. I am authorized to deliver the following message." Kethvorin raised an eyebrow. He gestured for his officers to let the message continue. "Turn back now," the voice said. "This is your only warning. Humanity does not wish for conflict. We would welcome peaceful contact with your species. But if you continue on your current course with hostile intent, you will be destroyed. Challenge us, and you will not survive." The message ended. For a long moment the bridge was silent. Then Kethvorin began to laugh. It started as a small chuckle and grew into a full, deep laugh that echoed off the metal walls. His officers looked at each other, unsure how to react. Then they began to laugh too. "Save that message," Kethvarin said when he had caught his breath. "I want it preserved in our archives. Future generations should know how amusing the humans were before they were conquered." Tethral was still smiling, but there was a small worry in his eyes. "Supreme Commander, should we not at least scan for hidden weapons?" The humans seemed very confident. Confident? Kethvorin shook his head. "They are not confident. They are ignorant. They have never seen a real military force. They do not understand what is coming for them." He waved his hand dismissively. "Their largest ships are barely 1 kilometer long. Their weapons cannot scratch our paint. What could they possibly have that would threaten us?" Another officer spoke up. His name was Vethger, and he was old. He had served the Dominion for over 60 years. "Supreme Commander, I have heard strange rumors about this region of space. Some traders say that there was an ancient battle here, long before any current civilization. They say something powerful died in this system." Kethvorin frowned. "Old stories and trader nonsense. I deal in facts, Vethger, and the facts are simple. We have 1,000 Titanic ships. They have a few hundred primitive vessels. The outcome is already decided." He turned back to the display of the blue planet. "Continue on course. We will arrive at their world in 2 days. Prepare the standard conquest protocols. Bombardment first to break their spirit. Then landing forces to collect survivors for processing." The fleet moved forward. 1,000 metal mountains drifted through the darkness, getting closer to Earth with every passing hour. On every ship, soldiers prepared for another easy victory. Officers planned the occupation. Scientists looked forward to studying a new species. None of them understood what they were walking into. On Earth, Admiral Yuki Tanaka turned off the transmission equipment. She stood in a deep underground bunker, surrounded by military officers from every nation on the planet. The room was quiet and tense. "They did not respond," said General Morrison from America. "They are still coming." Tanaka nodded slowly. Her face showed no fear. "We gave them their chance. We warned them. What happens next is their own choice." She turned to face the assembled leaders of humanity. Presidents and prime ministers, generals and admirals, all waited for her words. "Activate Protocol Prometheus," she said. "Humanity goes to war." Deep beneath the earth, machines that had slept for decades began to wake. On the dark side of the moon, hidden doors started to open. In secret facilities across the solar system, weapons powered up for the first time. The humans had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. They had found something on Mars, something ancient, something that proved the galaxy was not as safe as it seemed, and they had learned from it. The Titanic ships were coming. They thought they were hunters, thought they were wrong. The council room aboard the Eternal Supremacy was built to impress. Golden pillars held up a ceiling, painted with scenes of Valorian conquest. Holographic displays showed the glory of the Dominion across 17 star systems. Hundreds of conquered species had knelt in this very room, begging for mercy that never came. Today, the room held the most powerful beings in the Valorian fleet. 12 high commanders sat around a circular table, each one responsible for hundreds of millions of soldiers. At the head of the table sat Kethvorin, his dark eyes watching his officers with cold calculation. "Show them the human fleet," he commanded. The holographic display changed. Instead of past glories, it now showed the Earth and the ships that defended it. The human vessels looked like toys compared to the Titanic ships. Most were barely a kilometer long. Their weapons seemed simple and crude. Their shields flickered with weak energy. "This is what stands against us," Kethvorin said with a smile. 237 vessels. Their largest ship is called the Unity, and it is their flagship. It measures exactly 1.2 kilometers in length. He paused to let that sink in. Our smallest supply ship is larger. The commanders laughed. One of them, a female named Sethra, leaned forward. She was known for her caution. What weapons do they possess? An intelligence officer stepped forward to answer. Nuclear missiles, Commander. Kinetic projectiles. Basic plasma cannons. We also detected some kind of energy beam weapon, but our analysis shows it cannot generate enough power to affect our shields. What about the message they sent? Asked another commander. They seemed very certain of themselves. Kethvorin waved his hand. Bluffing. Every species bluffs before they fall. Remember the Cathari? They told us they had secret weapons that would destroy our fleet. They had nothing. The humans are the same. But Vethker, the old officer, spoke up again. Supreme Commander, I suggest we at least send scout ships ahead. There is something strange about this system. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual energy readings from their moon. What kind of readings? Unknown, Supreme Commander. They appear and disappear, almost like something is being hidden from us. Kethvorin considered this for a moment. Then he shook his head. You see shadows where there are none, old friend. The moon is a dead rock. The humans have a few small bases there. Nothing more. He stood up, and everyone in the room straightened in their seats. We will proceed with standard conquest protocol. In 18 hours, we will reach optimal bombardment range. We will destroy their major cities, one by one, until they surrender. Then we will process the survivors. He smiled coldly. By this time tomorrow, the human race will belong to the Dominion. Far away, on the blue planet called Earth, Admiral Yuki Tanaka was having a very different meeting. The war council chamber was located 3 kilometers beneath the surface of the Himalayan mountains. It had been built in secret over 20 years ago, carved out of solid rock by machines that worked day and night. Very few people knew it existed. Those who did understood that it was humanity's last hope. Tanaka stood at the center of the room, surrounded by screens that showed every part of the solar system. She could see the Titanic ships as bright red dots, moving slowly toward Earth. She could see her own fleet as blue dots, gathered protectively around the planet. They're not slowing down, said General Morrison. He was a large man with gray hair and a scarred face. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before being chosen for this command. They received our warning and ignored it. As expected, Tanaka replied. The Valorians have never faced real resistance. They believe themselves invincible. She turned to another officer. Dr. Chun, are the Prometheus weapons ready? Dr. Chun was a small woman with glasses and nervous hands, but her mind was one of the sharpest on the planet. All systems are operational, Admiral. The lunar installations are fully charged. The fleet has been upgraded with the new weapons. Everything is ready. Good. Tanaka looked at the screens showing the moon. On the surface, it looked the same as always. Craters and dust and rocks. But beneath that surface, hidden in caves and bunkers, humanity had built something terrible. It had started 50 years ago, when a mining expedition on Mars discovered something unexpected. Deep beneath the red planet's surface, they found the remains of a battlefield. Ancient ships destroyed in a war that happened millions of years before humans existed. And among those wrecked vessels, they found technology that was far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. The scientists studied the wreckage in secret. They learned that the galaxy was full of dangerous species. They learned that Earth was not safe. And they learned how to build weapons that could fight back. For 50 years, humanity prepared in silence. They built secret factories and hidden bases. They created weapons that could tear holes in space itself. They trained soldiers and pilots for a war that they hoped would never come. But now the war had come, and humanity was ready. "Show me the enemy formation," Tanaka said. The display changed to show the Valorian fleet in detail. 1,000 Titanic ships arranged in a perfect sphere around the flagship. It was a formation designed to project power and crush any resistance. "They're overconfident," Tanaka observed. "Their formation is designed to frighten, not to fight. They expect us to surrender the moment they arrive." General Morrison nodded. "What do we do when they reach bombardment range?" Tanaka's eyes were hard as stone. "We let them come. We let them think they've won. And then we show them what humanity is truly capable of." She turned to face the room. Every officer, every scientist, every leader was watching her. "For 50 years, we have prepared for this moment," she said. "We have built weapons that the galaxy has not seen in millions of years. We have trained our soldiers to face the unimaginable. We have done everything possible to avoid this war, but the enemy has chosen conflict." She paused, letting her words sink in. "The Valorians think they are predators, and we are prey. They think their size makes them strong, but they have forgotten something important." Her voice grew harder. "Humanity was born on a world of predators. We survived ice ages and plagues. We fought wars against each other for thousands of years. We are not sheep. We are wolves." She pointed at the display showing the approaching fleet. "They come with 1,000 ships. They come thinking they will conquer us. But they were warned. They were given a chance to leave in peace. They ignored that warning." Tanaka's eyes burned with cold fire. "Now they will learn why the universe fears the dark. They will learn why nothing intelligent has approached this region of space for millions of years. They will learn what happens when you challenge humanity." She turned back to the screens. The red dots were getting closer. 18 hours until contact. All stations prepare for battle. The countdown had begun. The Valorian fleet arrived at Earth like a storm of metal and fire. 1,000 Titanic ships blocked out the stars, their massive hulls casting shadows across the moon. Supreme Commander Kethvorin stood on the bridge of the Eternal Supremacy, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. "Where is their fleet?" He asked. T.E. Errol checked the sensor readings. His face showed confusion. "They have retreated, Supreme Commander. The human vessels are hiding behind their moon. They appear to be running away." Kethvorin laughed. "Cowards. They see our strength and their courage fails them." He turned to his weapons officer. "Move the Devastator into bombardment position. We will begin with their largest city." "What do they call it?" "New York, Supreme Commander. Population approximately 12 million. Perfect. A good example. Destroy it, and the rest of the planet will surrender within hours." The Devastator was one of the largest Titanic ships, second only to the Eternal Supremacy itself. It moved forward from the formation, its massive engines pushing it toward Earth. The planet-killer cannon on its bow began to charge, glowing with sickly green energy that could crack a world in half. Kethvorin watched with satisfaction. He had seen this moment many times before. The charging of the cannon, the terror of the primitive species below, the begging transmissions asking for mercy, then the flash of green light, and the death of millions. It was always the same. But not today. The moon changed at first. Kethvorin did not understand what he was seeing. The surface of Earth's moon seemed to shift and move. Craters that had looked empty suddenly opened like eyes waking from sleep. Dust and rock fell away to reveal metal structures beneath. "What is that?" Tethril whispered, his voice shaking. Massive doors, each 1 kilometer wide, slid open across the lunar surface. Inside those doors, Kethvorin could see machines, weapons platforms the size of cities. arrays of cannons pointing at his fleet. Technology that looked impossibly advanced. Impossible, he breathed. That technology, it cannot exist. We would have detected it. Before anyone could respond, the moon fired. Beams of pure darkness shot out from the lunar installations. They were not light. They were the opposite of light. They were holes in reality itself, tears in the fabric of space that consumed everything they touched. The Devastator's shields were supposed to be invincible. They had stopped nuclear weapons, plasma cannons, and kinetic impacts for 3,000 years. Nothing could penetrate them. The dark beams did not penetrate the shields. They deleted them. One moment the shields existed. The next moment they simply stopped existing, as if they had never been there at all. The Devastator died in 11 seconds. The dark beams tore through its hull like paper. The massive ship, 200 kilometers of metal and weapons and soldiers, crumpled inward. Its reactor went critical. The explosion was visible across the entire solar system, a new star being born and dying in an instant. Kethvorin could not move. He could not speak. He stood frozen, watching the impossible happen. The Devastator was gone. 30 million Valorian soldiers dead in seconds. All ships raised shields to maximum. He finally screamed, "Return fire! Return fire!" The Titanic ships began to move. Their cannons charged and fired at the moon, sending beams of green destruction toward the lunar surface. But the moon had shields too, and unlike the Valorian shields, these could not be broken. The attacks splashed harmlessly against invisible barriers. Then the human fleet emerged. They came from behind the moon like a swarm of angry insects. 237 vessels, small compared to the Titanic ships. But something was different now. Their weapons glowed with the same dark energy as the lunar installations. Their shields hummed with power that should not exist. Admiral Tanaka's voice cut through every frequency. You were warned. The human ships attacked. They moved faster than any ship the Valorians had ever seen. Their pilots flew with impossible precision, dodging counterattacks and finding weak points in the Titanic ship's defenses. And their weapons, those terrible dark beams, cut through Valorian shields like they were nothing. Another Titanic ship exploded. Then another. Then 3 more at once. Kethvorin screamed orders, but his voice was lost in the chaos. The bridge was filled with alarms and shouting officers. On every screen, he could see his fleet dying. Ships that had conquered star systems were being destroyed by vessels a fraction of their size. How is this possible? He demanded. How do they have this technology? Old Vethker was at his side, his face pale with fear. The ancient battlefield's supreme commander. The one on their 4th planet. They must have found something there. Something from the old wars. What old wars? What are you talking about? Vethker's eyes were wide. There are legends, Supreme Commander. Stories from before the Dominion existed. They say that once, millions of years ago, there were species in this galaxy that made the Dominion look like children playing with toys. They fought wars that burned entire star systems. And then they vanished. He pointed at the dark beams cutting through the fleet. That is their technology. The humans found their weapons, and now they are using them against us. Kethvorin watched as another squadron of Titanic ships was destroyed. 10 more. 20. The humans were everywhere at once, striking from angles that should not be possible, using tactics that the Valorians had never seen. The human pilots were not just skilled. They were connected somehow, moving as one organism. Every attack was perfectly coordinated. Every defense was anticipated. It was like fighting a single enemy with hundreds of bodies. Retreat! Kethvorin finally ordered. All ships, retreat to hyperspace. We must escape. But it was too late. The humans had prepared for that too. Across the solar system, hidden devices activated. Gravity wells erupted into existence, creating traps that prevented faster-than-light travel. The remaining Valorian ships were caught like fish in a net. Admiral Tanaka's face appeared on Kethvoren's screen. She looked calm, almost sad. "You were given one warning," she said. "You chose to ignore it. That was your decision, not ours." Another Titanic ship exploded in the background. Kethvoren could hear the screams of his dying soldiers through the communication channels. "What are you?" He whispered. "What kind of monsters are you?" Tanaka's expression did not change. "We are humans. We are the children of a violent world. We learned to fight before we learned to walk. We survived extinction events that killed everything else. We are what happens when a species is forged in fire and blood for 300,000 years. She leaned closer to the camera. "And we warned you. We gave you a chance to leave in peace. You chose war." The screen went dark dot around the eternal supremacy. The Titanic ships continued to die. One by one, the mightiest fleet in the galaxy was being destroyed by a species that had barely left its own solar system. Kethvoren fell to his knees. For the first time in his long life, he understood what it felt like to be prey. The humans were not the insects he had thought they were. They were the predators, and they had only just begun. The battle lasted 12 hours. In galactic history, it would be remembered as the 12-hour war. The day when the mightiest fleet ever assembled was destroyed by a species that the galaxy had never heard of. By the third hour, Kethvoren had stopped giving orders. There was no point. His commands meant nothing against an enemy that seemed to know his moves before he made them. The Valorian tactics that had conquered 17 star systems were useless. Every formation was broken. Every strategy was countered. Every trick was anticipated. The humans fought like nothing the Valorians had ever seen. Their ships moved through the battlefield in perfect harmony. A squadron would attack from one direction, drawing fire from a Titanic ship. Then another squadron would strike from the opposite side, hitting the exposed weak points. And a third group would deliver the killing blow, their dark beams tearing through shields and hulls without mercy. It was like watching a dance. A terrible, beautiful dance of destruction. How do they coordinate like that? Vethker asked. He was watching the battle from beside Kethvoren, his old face filled with amazement and terror. No communication could be that fast. A young officer answered, his voice shaking. "We intercepted some of their signals, Commander. The pilots are connected directly to their ships through neural links. Their minds are joined together. When one sees an enemy, they all see it. When one thinks of an attack, they all think it." Vethker shook his head slowly. "They have turned themselves into a hive mind. A swarm. That is why we cannot predict them. They think as one." Kethvoren said nothing. He was watching the fury of conquest, a Titanic ship that had been in his family for generations, explode under the assault of 7 human vessels. The ship broke apart in slow motion, its hull splitting like rotten fruit. He could imagine the millions of soldiers inside, screaming as the vacuum took them. "Why?" He whispered. "Why are they so good at this?" Vethker had an answer, though he wished he did not. "Because war is in their blood, Supreme Commander. I researched their history after we detected them. They have fought each other continuously for their entire existence. World wars, civil wars, religious wars, resource wars. They have never known true peace." He pulled up a holographic display showing human history. Images of ancient battles with swords and arrows. Images of trenches and bombs. Images of nuclear mushroom clouds. They did not reach the stars through cooperation like most species, Vethker continued. They clawed their way up through endless conflict. Every generation of humans has known war. Every human alive today is descended from warriors who survived battles that killed millions. The display showed more images. Human soldiers fighting in jungles, in deserts, in frozen wastelands. Human generals planning attacks. Human scientists building weapons of terrible power. We thought they were primitive because they had not spread beyond their solar system, Vethker said. We were wrong. They had not spread because they were too busy fighting each other. But when they discovered they were not alone in the universe, they stopped fighting each other. They turned all that violence, all that experience, all that skill, outward. He pointed at the human ships dancing through the Valorian fleet. We are facing 300,000 years of warfare training, and we have nothing that can match it. By the 6th hour, half the Valorian fleet was destroyed. Kethvorin had tried everything. He had ordered his ships to scatter, hoping some would escape the gravity traps. They were hunted down one by one. He had ordered concentrated fire on the lunar installations. The human shields were too strong. He had ordered his soldiers to launch boarding attacks on the human ships. The boarding pods were shot down before they could get close. Nothing worked. The Titanic ships fell like leaves in a storm. Each one was a monument to Valorian power, and each one died in minutes. The humans showed no mercy, but they also showed no cruelty. They did not torture the Valorian ships. They simply destroyed them, quickly and efficiently, like farmers killing pests dot by the 9th hour. Only 100 Titanic ships remained. Kethvorin sat on his throne, watching the end approach. Around him, his officers worked frantically to find some way to survive. But there was no way. The Eternal Supremacy was surrounded by human vessels, their weapons aimed and ready. Supreme Commander, Tethrel said, his voice broken. They are opening communication. They wish to speak with you. Put it through. Admiral Tanaka appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Kethvorin could see the bridge of her flagship. It was smaller than his bridge, simpler. But the officers there moved with calm confidence. They knew they had won. Supreme Commander Kethvorin, Tanaka said, your fleet is destroyed. Further resistance is useless. I am prepared to offer terms of surrender. Kethvorin laughed. It was a hollow, broken sound. Surrender? The Valorian Dominion does not surrender. We would rather die. That can be arranged, Tanaka replied. But I would prefer a different outcome. Order your remaining ships to power down their weapons. You and your soldiers will be taken prisoner and treated according to the laws of war. When this conflict is truly over, you will be allowed to return to your territory. And if I refuse? Tanaka's expression did not change. Then I will destroy every remaining ship in the next hour. The choice is yours. Kethvorin closed his eyes. He thought of his family. He thought of his home world. He thought of the dominion that had stood for 3,000 years and would now fall because he had ignored a warning. I need time to consider, he said. Tanaka nodded. You have 30 minutes. The screen went dark. Kethvorin turned to his remaining officers. There were not many left. Most had died when their ships were destroyed. The survivors looked at him with empty eyes, waiting for orders that would not come. We cannot surrender, Sethra said. The shame would destroy the Dominion. The Dominion is already destroyed, Vethka replied quietly. Look at the fleet. 900 ships are gone. Millions of our soldiers are dead. We have lost. Then we die with honor, Sethra insisted. We fight until the last ship falls. Kethvorin raised his hand for silence. He stared at the screen showing the human fleet. So small, so primitive looking, and so incredibly deadly. We were wrong about them, he said slowly. We looked at their ships and saw primitives. We looked at their weapons and saw toys. We did not see the truth. He stood up from his throne. They warned us. They told us to leave. They gave us every chance to avoid this battle. And we laughed at them. He turned to face his officers. This is not their fault. This is our fault. We came to their home with weapons raised. We planned to enslave their people and destroy their cities. We did not treat them with respect. He walked to the communication console. And now we will pay the price. Kethvorin opened a channel to all remaining Valorian ships. This is Supreme Commander Kethvorin. All vessels are ordered to power down weapons and surrender to human forces. We have been defeated. The war is over. The bridge was silent as the order went out. One by one, the surviving Titanic ships lowered their weapons. Their engines powered down. They drifted in space, helpless and waiting. The humans moved in to claim their victory. By the 12th hour, it was finished. 97 Valorian ships had surrendered. The other 903 were debris, scattered across the solar system in a ring of metal and death. The greatest fleet in the galaxy had been destroyed in half a day. And the universe would never be the same. 3 days after the battle, Supreme Commander Kethvorin was brought before Admiral Yuki Tanaka. The meeting took place on the Bridge of the Eternal Supremacy, which was now a captured ship. Human engineers had already taken control of its systems. Human soldiers patrolled its corridors. The great flagship of the Valorian Dominion had become a trophy of war. Kethvorin walked with his hands bound in front of him. His once proud uniform was torn and dirty. His eyes, which had looked upon the conquest of 17 star systems, were hollow with defeat. 2 human soldiers walked beside him, their weapons ready. Admiral Tanaka stood at the center of the bridge, looking out at the stars through the main viewport. Behind her, the wreckage of the Valorian fleet drifted slowly in the darkness. Pieces of destroyed ships caught the light of the sun, sparkling like deadly diamonds. "Supreme Commander," Tanaka said without turning around. "Thank you for coming." Kethvorin laughed bitterly. "I was not given a choice. No, you were not." Tanaka finally turned to face him. Her expression was calm, almost gentle. There was no hatred in her eyes, no triumph, only a deep sadness. "Do you understand why you are here?" "To be executed, I assume. A display for your people. Proof that humanity has conquered the conquerors." Tanaka shook her head. "No, we are not like you, Kethvorin. We do not kill defeated enemies for entertainment. You are here because I need you to understand something. And then I need you to carry a message." She gestured, and the holographic display activated. It showed a star map of the galaxy, thousands of lights representing thousands of civilizations. "The Valorian Dominion conquered 17 star systems," Tanaka said. "You enslaved billions of beings. You destroyed worlds that opposed you. You believed yourselves invincible." She paused. "You were wrong." The display changed to show the 12-hour war. Images of Titanic ships exploding. Videos of human vessels dancing through the battlefield. The final moments of the Devastator, caught by cameras as it crumpled into nothing. 903 of your ships were destroyed, Tanaka continued. Over 800 million of your soldiers are dead. Your fleet, the greatest military force in the galaxy, was defeated in half a day. She looked at Kethvorin with those sad eyes. "And we barely tried." Kethvorin felt his blood turn cold. "What do you mean?" "I mean that the weapons we used against you were old. They were found in ancient ruins on Mars, technology from a war that happened before the first Valorian was born. We copied them. We improved them." She smiled faintly. "But they are not our most powerful weapons. They are not even close." The display changed again, showing images of Earth, cities and forests and oceans. Children playing in parks. Families eating dinner together. Normal life on a normal world. "We do not want war," Tanaka said. "We want to live in peace. We want to raise our children and explore the universe and learn new things. We would have welcomed the Valorians as friends. We would have welcomed any species as friends." Her voice hardened. "But we are not fools. We know that the galaxy is dangerous. We know that there are species like yours who conquer and destroy without mercy. So we prepared. We built weapons that could protect us. And we made a promise to ourselves." She stepped closer to Kethvorin. "One warning. We will always give one warning. Turn back. Leave us in peace. Do not force us to fight." "We ignored your warning," Kethvorin whispered. "Yes, and now you know what happens when our warning is ignored." Tanaka turned back to the viewport. "That is the message I need you to carry." She gestured again, and the display showed 3 Valorian ships. They were small vessels, barely damaged in the battle. They drifted near the Eternal Supremacy, waiting. "Those ships have been repaired and supplied," Tanaka said. "They will carry you and the other survivors back to Valorian space. You will tell your leaders what happened here. You will show them the recordings of the battle. You will make them understand." Kethvorin frowned. "Understand what?" Tanaka turned to face him one final time. "Understand that humanity is not to be challenged. We did not seek this war. We did not want it. But we were ready for it, and we won." She paused. "The next time a Valorian fleet enters human space, we will not offer surrender. We will not take prisoners. We will end your species completely." Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Challenge us, and you will not survive. Not your ships. Not your armies. Not your worlds. We will erase you from the universe so completely that the stars will forget you ever existed." Kethvorin believed her. 1 month later, the 3 Valorian ships limped into their home territory. They carried recordings of the 12-hour war. They carried the testimonies of the survivors. They carried Kethvorin's detailed report of human weapons and tactics. Within 1 year, the Valorian dominion collapsed. The myth of invincibility had been the foundation of their empire. When that myth was shattered, a conquered species rose up. The 17 star systems broke free. The dominion, which had stood for 3,000 years, crumbled into dust. But the recordings did not stay in Valorian space. Traders carried them to other civilizations. Scientists studied them in distant laboratories. Leaders watched them in throne rooms across the galaxy. Everyone saw the same thing: a species called humanity on a small blue world, destroying the mightiest fleet ever assembled. And everyone heard the same message. In council chambers on 100 worlds. Leaders made the same decision. In war rooms on 1,000 ships, commanders gave the same orders. The species called humanity was to be left alone. No hostile ship would enter their territory. No army would threaten their worlds. There would be trade, perhaps. Diplomacy, eventually. But never war, because the humans had proven something that changed the galaxy forever. They had shown that size did not mean strength. They had demonstrated that ancient technology could be found and used. They had revealed that a species forged in fire and blood could defeat any enemy. Admiral Tanaka retired 3 years after the war. She returned to Earth and lived quietly in a small house by the ocean. Sometimes, at night, she would look up at the stars and wonder if she had done the right thing. The galaxy feared humanity now. That fear would keep them safe. But fear could turn to hatred, and hatred could turn to war. Someday, another fleet might come. Another species might challenge the warning. And on that day, humanity would fight again. But for now, there was peace. The children of Earth grew up without fear of alien invasion. The colonies on Mars and the Moon expanded. Human ships began to explore beyond their solar system. carrying offers of friendship to any species that would accept them. Some did. Many did not, but no one challenged them. On 1,000 worlds, in 1,000 languages, the story was told and retold. The story of the Titanic ships that came to Earth with weapons raised. The story of the warning that was given and ignored. The story of the 12-hour war and the fleet that died in fire and darkness. And always, the story ended the same way, with a simple lesson that every child in the galaxy learned before they could walk. Humanity issues one warning, only one. Challenge them, and you will not survive. The stars remembered Dot, and the stars kept their distance.